Good morning, everybody. This is Jared, and today's date is September the 18th, 2014, and it is 3:22 a.m. in the morning, and I have not gone to sleep yet, due to the fact that I've been working on personal projects and work overall. But I'm here today to read a poem to you from a featured poet, and today's featured poet is Elizabeth Bishop. And I'm going to give you a little bio on Miss Bishop. Of course, she's a poet and short story writer. She was born in 1911 in Worcester, Massachusetts, and she passed away in 1979. She was the Poet Laureate of the United States from 1949 to 1950. She was a Pulitzer Prize winner, which she took in 1956, and she was also a National Book Award winner in 1970. During her earlier years, Miss Bishop was heavily influenced by the poet Mary Ann Moore, so much in fact that Miss Moore persuaded her not to attend the college that she was enrolled in at the time. And I think that was in lieu of her becoming a writer. And of course, she was introduced to Miss Moore in 1934. A lot of her contemporaries thought that she was the antithesis of what a female poet should have been at the time. But Miss Bishop, she felt that she wanted to be a writer through her own way, through her own merits, and so she wasn't afflicted by, for example, the politics of women's rights. Let's see, and also, to tack on to what I just said, she asked her then friend and fellow poet Robert Lowell not to publish his book The Dolphin, which was in 1973. It was a very controversial book, and the reason why she asked him to cease any idea for publication is because he used his ex-wife's very private notes as source material, and she felt like his true art would not come through because of the fact that he's using his ex-wife's letters. Miss Bishop's works include North and South, which was published in 1946, A Cold Spring in 1956, and Questions of Travel in 1965. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and recite my favorite poem by Elizabeth Bishop, who I was introduced to barely a decade ago. If I already mentioned that, please scratch that. Scratch that last statement. And it's entitled Sestina, and that's, of course, after the fixed verse form. And I hope I do it justice. All right? Let's see. Sestina. September rain falls on the house. In the failing light, the old grandmother sits in the kitchen with the child beside the little marble stove, reading the jokes from the almanac, laughing and talking to hide her tears. She thinks that her equinoctial tears and the rain that beats on the roof of the house were both foretold by the almanac, but only known to a grandmother. The iron kettle sings on the stove. She cuts some bread and says to the child, "It's time for tea now." But the child is watching the teakettle's small, hard tears dance like mad on the hot black stove, the way the rain must dance on the house. Tidying up, the old grandmother hangs up the clever almanac on its string. Birdlike, the almanac hovers, half open above the child, hovers above the old grandmother and her teacup full of dark brown tears. She shivers and says she thinks the house feels chilly, and puts more wood on in the stove. "It was to be," says the marble stove. "I know what I know," says the almanac. With crayons, the child draws a rigid house and a winding pathway. Then the child puts in a man with buttons like tears and shows it proudly to the grandmother. But secretly, while the grandmother busies herself about the stove, the little moon falls down like tears from between the pages of the almanac into the flower bed the child has carefully placed in front of the house. "Time to plant tears," says the almanac. The grandmother sings to the marvelous stove, and the child draws another inscrutable house. Thank you guys for listening. And if you have any questions about this poem, I'll be more than willing to give you answer any questions that you have and tell you my interpretation of this poem. It's a very interesting poem, and as you've noticed, it is a sestina, and also the title as well. That of course that plays a part in the answer that I can give you. That is, of course, if you have any questions about this poem or any other poem that I've written or any other poem that I've recited from other future poets. Please feel free to ask questions and make comments. This is Jared, and I will be back next week reading, of course, another feature poet. And you guys have a great day.